knowledge is power. Francis Bacon said that way back. And it really still holds true, doesn't it? Especially when you get into global security and, well, secrets.
Absolutely. Sometimes just showing what you know or maybe what you're capable of, that's the real power move.
And that really sets the stage for what we're diving into today. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here. And yeah, we're looking at something pretty fascinating, maybe even a bit surprising, drawing on some great insights from the Eurasian Times.
We really are, because it's about something China almost never does.
Yeah.
A rare public peek behind the curtain at a core part of their nuclear deterrent, specifically the DF-5 ICBM.
Yeah, China is usually incredibly tight-lipped about their nuclear program. Details like this, very unusual.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is basically this. Try to figure out why China picked now to share these details. What do they actually tell us? And, what bigger signal might this be sending out geopolitically?
It's a key question. What's the message here?
And look, this isn't just abstract theorizing. If you're maybe studying for exams like at the UPSC mains, dealing with current affairs, or honestly, if you're just trying to get a handle on global power dynamics, understanding a move like this, it's crucial.
It really gives you context, helps you analyze why countries do what they do, especially in defense and security. It's relevant for, formal study, but also just for being an informed citizen trying to make sense of the world.
Exactly. So if you find this kind of analysis helpful, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and definitely leave comments below, questions you have, other topics you want us to tackle.
We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so let's dive in. What exactly makes this DF-5 reveal so surprising? You mentioned their usual secrecy.
Well, it's the degree of secrecy, normally. China's nuclear doctrine, their arsenal size, specific missile capabilities, it's all kept very close to the chest. It's a stark contrast to, say, the U.S. or Russia, who, through treaties and just general posture, have traditionally been more transparent, relatively speaking.
So for CCTV, their state broadcaster, to come out and give actual specific details on a major ICBM, it wasn't a leak or anything, it was deliberate.
Precisely. A controlled public disclosure, which, yeah, it definitely raised eyebrows among people who follow this closely. Like you said, seeing a ghost.
Which leads straight to the why now question. What was happening right around the time they did this?
Well, the timing is, I think, incredibly telling. This reveal happened just days after the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. That's the big annual defense summit in Asia.
Right, Shangri-La. And there was a particularly forceful speech there from the U.S. side this year, wasn't there? From Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Forceful is a good word, yeah. Hegseth's message was very direct. He emphasized the Indo-Pacific as the absolute top priority for the administration.
And he didn't mince words about China, did he? Talking about perceived aggressive posturing, especially near Taiwan.
Not at all. I think the source noted he mentioned China over 20 times in the speech. He was explicitly calling on Asian allies to boost their own defenses, framing it very much as a response to China's influence.
And the language around Taiwan was particularly strong.
Extremely strong. He warned that any attempt by China to take Taiwan by force would lead to, and this is a direct quote, devastating consequences. That's serious language in this context.
Wow, and it wasn't just regional either, was it? I remember reading he brought up the Panama Canal.
He did. He called it key terrain, stressed it wasn't built by China, and said the U.S. wouldn't let them weaponize it or control it. So yes, definitely expanding the concern beyond just East Asia. It seemed aimed at highlighting the global nature of the competition.
That kind of specific, almost unexpected global reference must have landed hard.
Reports suggest the overall tone, the directness, it took quite a few people by surprise, including, it seems, Beijing. And Hegseth finished with a pretty stark line about readiness. If deterrence fails, we are prepared to fight and win decisively.
Okay, so you've got this very blunt, very public U.S. statement laying out concerns, emphasizing military readiness, and then boom, days later, China releases specifics on a strategic nuclear missile. It's hard not to connect those dots.
It really is. And the prevailing interpretation, the one discussed in the Eurasian Times piece, is that this DF-5 reveal was very likely a direct, calculated response. China's way of pushing back, not with words necessarily, but by showcasing a tangible piece of its own strategic power.
A bit of strategic signaling. We heard you, and here's a reminder of what we have.
Exactly. A signal of capability, of seriousness, of resolve. Using, interestingly, one of their older systems to make the point.
Right, which brings us to the missile itself, the DF-5. What details did they actually put out there? Because again, this kind of specificity from China is rare.
Very rare. They described it as their first-generation strategic ICBM. It's a two-stage liquid-fueled missile. Development started way back in the early 1970s, and it officially entered service around 1981.
So definitely a legacy system, but foundational for them. I think there was a quote about its importance.
Yes, from Song Zonping, a former PLA instructor. He basically said, without the DF-5, China wouldn't be regarded as a nation with credible intercontinental strike capability. It was, in his words, instrumental in China becoming a recognized nuclear power.
It put them in the big leagues, essentially, able to reach distant adversaries.
Precisely. And they gave some surprisingly specific technical specs. 32.6 meters long, that's over 100 feet, a diameter of 3.35 meters, and a launch weight of 183 tons. It's a huge missile.
That is massive, like a small building taking off, and the payload.
A single nuclear warhead, but a very large one.
Okay, how large are we talking?
The revealed yield was between 3 and 4 megatons of TNT equivalent.
3 to 4 megatons. Okay, put that in perspective for us.
Well, think about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those bombs were measured in kilotons. A megaton is 1,000 kilotons. So 3 to 4 megatons is roughly 200 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It's city-destroying power, the kind of yield that defines strategic deterrence.
Sobering. And the range? Could it actually reach its intended targets?
Yes. They stated a range of 12,000 kilometers, which is about 7,460 miles. Plenty to cover the entire continental United States, Western Europe, from launch sites within China.
And accuracy?
Listed as within 500 meters. Now, by today's standards, that might not sound incredibly precise.
Right, you hear about modern missiles hitting within feet.
Exactly. But for an early 80s ICBM carrying a multi-megaton warhead aimed at a large area target like a city or a major military base complex, 500 meters was more than accurate enough to guarantee destruction. It absolutely served its deterrent purpose.
And it wasn't just this one missile type, right? It formed the basis for other things.
That's right. The report mentioned it was foundational for other programs. For instance, their Long March 2C space launch vehicle, used for putting satellites into orbit, is derived from it. And crucially for the military side, the DF-5B variant.
Okay, the DF-5B, what's different there?
This is where it gets really significant in terms of capability enhancement. MIRV technology.
MIRV?
Right.
Multiple independently targetable reentry vehicle. That sounds complicated.
It is, but the concept is critical. Instead of one missile, one warhead, one target, a MIRV missile carries multiple warheads. After the boost phase, it releases these warheads in space, and each one can be guided to a separate target.
Okay. So one launch could threaten several different places simultaneously.
Precisely. It dramatically increases the strike potential of a single missile. It makes missile defense much harder, too. And there were those media reports back in 2017 about an even later variant, the DF-5C.
Yeah.
Reportedly tested with potentially up to 10 MIRVs on a single missile.
10 warheads on one missile. Wow. Okay, so even though the base DF-5 design is old, its descendants are clearly still a major part of their force.
Absolutely. That evolution is key. Which brings us back to that interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
The hidden warning idea.
Right. The theory from Song Zonping, the former PLA instructor you mentioned. What was his take on why reveal details about the old DF-5 now?
His suggestion is pretty intriguing. He thinks that by being willing to talk specifics about the older DF-5, China is actually signaling confidence. Confidence in its newer, much more advanced, and still largely secret nuclear weapons. And, importantly, the new hardened missile silos they've been building.
So it's less about bragging about the DF-5 and more like, this is our old stuff we're comfortable showing you. Imagine what our new stuff, the stuff we aren't showing you, can do.
That seems to be the core idea. It implies they're phasing out or supplementing these older systems with capabilities that are far more powerful. Capabilities it has not shown the world. It's a way of projecting strength through, paradoxically, revealing details about something less advanced.
That's a sophisticated bit of signaling, isn't it? Maintain ambiguity about your cutting edge, but demonstrate a very potent baseline and hint that there's much more behind the curtain.
It fits a certain pattern of strategic communication, yes.
Yeah.
And you have to place this DF-5 news within the broader picture of China's growing nuclear arsenal.
Because it's not just the DF-5 anymore. They have newer ICBMs.
Right. More modern, solid-fueled, often road-mobile systems like the DF-31 and the really advanced DF-41. These are harder to track, quicker to launch.
And they almost never talk about testing those, do they?
Very, very rarely. The Eurasian Times piece pointed out that a DF-31 test acknowledged last year was apparently the first ICBM test they'd publicly confirmed in something like 4 decades.
Which just makes this deliberate DF-5 reveal stand out even more. It reinforces the idea that it was a specific strategic choice, a message.
Exactly. And then there are the sheer numbers, the overall stockpile size.
What are the latest estimates on that?
Well, a space try, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, their data from earlier this year put China's warhead count at over 500.
Yeah.
That makes them the third largest nuclear power after Russia and the U.S., but growing fast.
And U.S. estimates are even higher.
The Pentagon has suggested they might already have over 600 warheads now and projected they could exceed 1,000 by 2030.
1,000 warheads by 2030. That's a very rapid expansion compared to their historical posture.
It is. It suggests a significant shift from what was traditionally seen as a minimum deterrence posture towards a much larger, potentially more flexible nuclear force.
Okay, so let's try to tie this all together. We have this surprising reveal, the timing linked to Shangri-La, the specific details of the DF-5 and its powerful yield, the MIRV context, the hidden warning theory, and this backdrop of rapid arsenal growth. What's the key takeaway here for someone trying to understand what's going on, for, say, our listeners studying global affairs?
I think the key takeaway is seeing how interconnected these things are. A seemingly technical detail about an old missile becomes a tool in contemporary geopolitical signaling. It's a real-world case study in deterrence theory, in strategic communication between major powers, and how military capabilities are used to send political messages, especially in times of tension.
Right. It moves beyond just knowing facts China has X missile to analyzing why they might choose to highlight it at a particular moment. Understanding the motivations, the context, the potential strategic goals, that's crucial for analysis, whether it's for an exam or just for grasping international relations.
Exactly. It underscores the complexity. Information itself, or the calculated release of it, is part of the strategic landscape.
Okay, so just to quickly recap our deep dive then, we looked at China's very unusual public reveal of specifics about the DF-5 ICBM. We strongly linked the timing to the tough talk from the U.S. at the Shangri-La Dialogue. We examined the DF-5's capabilities, that huge megaton yield, the intercontinental reach, and how its MIRV-capable descendants like the DF-5B are still relevant. We explored that fascinating hidden warning interpretation. Revealing the old implies confidence in the new and unseen. And we put it all in the context of China's rapidly expanding nuclear arsenal.
And understanding all those pieces really is vital for anyone trying to analyze strategic developments today.
And remember, this analysis is drawn from reporting and perspectives discussed in the Eurasian Times. Which leaves us, I think, with a pretty provocative question to chew on. This rare glimpse into China's nuclear past, timed as it was, combined with the signals from both sides. What does it suggest about the current temperature between major powers, and maybe about the future of deterrence and global stability itself? Are we seeing a shift in how these games are played?
It definitely makes you wonder about the future dynamics of transparency, signaling, and, well, miscalculation risk between nuclear powers.
Indeed. Food for thought. Well, that brings us to the end of this depth dive. We really hope you found this exploration of China's DF-5 reveal useful and insightful.
Thanks for tuning in.
If you did find it valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop your questions or suggestions for future topics in the comments below. We do read them. We'll see you next time.